Welcome again to everybody to the New York City VFP chapter meeting. My name is Susan Schnall. I'm president of the New York City chapter and of the National Board of Veterans for Peace. Doug Lummis, it's a pleasure to welcome you here tonight. And we have as a special welcome a slideshow that was prepared to help all of us understand and have some background about Okinawa. And thank you, Tarek and Ellen, for putting this together. Doug, welcome again to the meeting. For those of you who may not know him, he's a writer, former professor, former Marine, a very active member of Veterans for Peace for many years, and president of the chapter on Okinawa, and has been active in trying to prevent the American military bases from staying on that land. With that, Doug, I'll ask you to start, and I believe you're going to start by talking about your recent book, and then talk with us about Okinawa and the struggle. Thank you.
I had the order the other way around in my head, that I talk about the present situation first, and if there's any time left, talk about the book after. Is that all right?
That's wonderful, Doug. Thank you, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, I want to begin by saying to Rachel, I'm sorry, I wasn't sure that was you without the braids. And now I know it's you. I want to say it's good to see you, and we look forward to your visit.
Thank you very much.
This fall.
Yeah, we're looking forward to reunited again. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. It's good that slideshow came on, because it shows how, it helps to show how the situation has changed. That slideshow was put together probably at least 3 or 4 years ago, and things have developed since then. I think it was year before last, Christmas Eve in 2 years ago, December 24th, the both newspapers in Okinawa announced that the government had declared that in the event of a Taiwan contingency, the southwestern islands would become a war zone. They didn't say Okinawa or Okinawa Prefecture, they said the Southwest Islands, to put it a little bit out of focus about who they were talking to. But the Southwest Islands means Okinawa and a few more islands. What does it mean to say that it will become a war zone? It has 2 levels. One is the obvious one, that if missiles are fired from Okinawa into mainland Japan, or to attack their ships or their airplanes, ships at sea, they will certainly, according to the logic of war, return missiles to the places where those missiles had been fired. And that will be in Okinawa. So Okinawa will become a target. This is something we've been predicting for years, but it seemed abstract. But here it became concrete. Here is a war that people are saying, including US military officials, are saying is likely to happen. And if it does, missiles will again fall in Okinawa for the first time since the Battle of Okinawa. And to make sure that that happens, the self-defense forces, together with the US military, have been building new missile launching sites scattered through the outer islands. Okinawa Prefecture is not just the big island that everybody knows. There are a lot of islands, and they're putting missile launching sites on Yonaguni Island, Ishigaki, Miyake, Okinawa Main Island, that's the one that you've all been to, Amami Oshima, Tanegashima, Mageshima, manned by self-defense forces and aimed at China. They have missiles for, what do you call it, land to air and land to sea, which you could just barely continue to call self-defense missiles, but they're also putting in long-range missiles. Long-range missiles means missiles capable of reaching the Chinese mainland. From the standpoint of Japan's Article 9, the peace clause, the war renouncing clause, some people argue that Article 9 was dead long ago. I've been arguing that it still retains a thread of authority, in that so far the Japanese self-defense forces have done everything else except kill somebody. They support wars, they carry the water and carry the ammunition and become co-conspirators in the war, but they have so far not killed any person under the right of legitimacy. They're not blooded, as you might put it in Marine Corps talk. But if you have missiles that you can fire to the mainland, to do that, the only law that allows that is the law called the right of belligerency. In other words, when you're firing off missiles that will kill somebody you don't see, you don't know who it is, you don't care who it is, particularly except that it's an enemy. The person does not have to be in the act of trying to harm you. The person could be eating lunch or sleeping or whatever, and the bombs fall on them. To do that requires the right of belligerency. So at that point, that would be the final death. Once one of those missiles is actually fired, that would be the final death of the peace constitution. That's one aspect. But the other thing is, the declaration that Okinawa would become a war zone was not accompanied by a declaration that any other prefecture of Japan would become a war zone, except for a couple of districts of southern Kyushu. But there's no talk about Tokyo being a war zone, or Osaka being a war zone, or Yokohama being a war zone, just Okinawa. And so it's like the Okinawans call the concentration of bases in Okinawa on 1%, less than 1% of the national territory, 75% of the bases, or 70% now, of bases in Okinawa, as any Okinawan will tell you if you ask about it. That statistic is on everybody's tongue. This shows what that really means. It's not just that the inconvenience of the bases, the accidents and the incidents and the pollution and so on and so forth, the noise, it isn't just that. It's also that if there's an actual war, the war itself will be concentrated, according to the Japanese government's plan, in Okinawa and nowhere else. They also said that the self-defense forces have no ability or intention to protect the local people. That's up to the local governments, the Okinawan local governments, to do the civil defense business. Now, there's another aspect of war zone that a lot of people haven't noticed. What does it mean when you call an area a war zone? I found on the internet an encyclopedia of international law terms, and I looked up war zone. Of course, in Japanese, it's senjo, so war zone is the English original of the Japanese word senjo. In English, war zone means an area where the rights of neutrals are not recognized. It's used in sea battles, and the law of the sea, where vessels from neutral countries cannot claim in a war zone the right of neutrality, so it's okay to torpedo them, even though they claim they're from neutral countries. That's what war zone means. And the encyclopedia also says that's not strictly legal, but it's what happens. They do get torpedoed in war zones, and the people who torpedo them are not punished. So in Okinawa, just about everybody is, in the case of the issue between Taiwan and China, everyone's neutral at least, or if anything, relatively friendly towards China. But certainly no one in Okinawa is interested in Okinawa becoming a party to a war with China about that issue. So the war will be fought, the damage for the war will come to Okinawa in a war with which Okinawans have nothing to do. They're not parties to it. They're not going to join it. It also means that probably when you say Okinawa will be a war zone, you mean that it will have something like martial law. A war zone generally, in a war zone, generally speaking, civil law evaporates and is replaced by martial law. So that, for example, just about every day, as you saw in your slides, people go to Henoko and block trucks, not quite as vigorously as they did before the COVID began, and shown in those pictures, but still, people are still blocking trucks. That will probably become redefined as aiding the enemy, for which you can be arrested. Nobody knows, but probably that will happen. And then if you put this in a slightly broader historical context, you can see a different aspect. If you think about it, the United States, ever since the Civil War, after the Civil War, every war that the United States has fought has been on the other the other guy's turf. There were the Indian Wars after the Civil War, fought on Indian land, at least according to the Indians, that was their land. There was the Spanish War fought in Cuba and the Philippines. There was the war against Philippine independence fought in the Philippines. World War I and World War II fought in Europe, and World War I also in the Middle East, and World War II, large Europe and Asia, Vietnam War in Vietnam, Korean War in Korea, Middle Eastern wars in the Middle East. No wars in US continental territory. So you can think of it this way. Actually, the US has a name for it. It's called, now, I don't know if it was a strategy from the beginning, but it's a strategy now. They call it offshore control. The US is trying for China and for Taiwan, it's the Taiwan War, the Taiwan contingency, they call it. For the US, it's the Contain China War. It's a strategy for containing China, not allowing China to expand into the Pacific. And it's carried out, the defense line is right up next to the Chinese border, all the way across the Pacific from the American West Coast. Walden Bello, I think you know his name, and I'll talk a little more about him later. Walden Bello has coined a term, semi-sovereign states. Semi-sovereign states are states whose foreign policy is under the control of the United States, their military policy. And 3 such states are South Korea, Japan, and the Philippines. In South Korea, as you know, the South Korean military high commander is an American general. The South Korean military, ever since the Korean War, and the same today, is under US military command, which means whatever the US military commands it to do, it has to do. So that's a big piece of your sovereignty held by the US. In Japan, it has been decided by court decision, and including the Supreme Court, that the Japan-US Security Treaty has higher authority than the Japanese Constitution, which places, and the fact that the US bases are here essentially puts the Japanese military under the command of the US military. So that's a second semi-sovereign state. And in the Philippines, in what was it, in 1992, I think, that they changed their constitution and wrote into it that there shall be no US bases, no foreign bases in the Philippines. And they actually succeeded in kicking out Clark and Subic Bay, Clark being, I think at that time, the biggest US base in Asia. They got them out with the help of the volcano, of course. But anyway, they got them out, and they've been sneaking back in based on the logic that they're not really the U.S. forces presently in the Philippines are not on U.S. bases. They're visiting forces on Philippine bases, and they're rotating. They rotate in and out, so they don't need. The Constitution says no bases unless the Congress approves it. But because these are just visiting forces, Congress doesn't need to approve it. Their Supreme Court says. So now they have 4 bases granted them by Aquino Jr. and now Marcos Jr. 5 more just this year. So there are now 9 bases with U.S. military on them. So that puts the Philippines also as a semi-sovereign state. So here are these 3 semi-sovereign states under U.S. military command, being the main line for containing China. And it means that if the war begins, the missiles will go into China from those 3 countries, and the missiles will come back from China and hit those 3 countries, not California and Oregon and Washington State. So right after this announcement was made, already in January last year, in Okinawa, people started organizing a new movement to oppose this. And it's called No More Battle of Okinawa. One more point of background. The first thing that concerns most people in Okinawa who are concerned about this is that, as with the Battle of Okinawa, again, Okinawa is being used as a sacrifice pawn. Okinawans don't play chess that much. They play the game called Go, and the pieces in Go are called stones. So it's throwaway stone, literally. The place that will get hit in the war rather than mainland sacred Japan. So in the case of Okinawa, it's a double discrimination. Japan in the place of the US being the sacrifice, but within Japan, the Japanese government imagining that it can contain this war in the tiny island of Okinawa, or the islands, because it includes all the outer islands, and get away with it. As many people have said, this is an illusion. Of course, if a war begins with China, if you put yourself in the position of a person in charge of a Chinese missile site, where would you like to send your missiles the most? Probably to Yokota base inside Greater Tokyo, because that's the headquarters, the top headquarters of the US military in Japan. Or Yokosuka, which is the home port of the 7th Fleet, USA. That's also in Japan. You'd surely want to hit that. So it's an illusion, but still, the Okinawans call the location of 75% of the bases in their little island territory as structural discrimination. But they were calling it that even before this specter of war appeared. If there is a plan to have the war also concentrated in Okinawa, that's a much, much more extreme and ugly form of structural discrimination. Now it's true, an awful lot of Okinawans are refusing to think about this because it's just too horrible. It can ruin your day if it dawns on you what's going on. But that's what's going on. So this movement called No More Battle of Okinawa, Nuchidu Takara, which I think you know as Life is a Treasure in the Okinawa dialect. That's the name of the organization. Has been little by little organizing talk sessions to make people aware of what's going on, and organizing demonstrations a little bigger and a little bigger, trying to get young people interested. But as I say, there's a lot of what do they call it? Escapism or denial. Come on, it just can't be. That's just not what I want to think about today. There's a lot of that going on, but it's proceeding. About a month ago, a demonstration gathered 2,600 people, which is not bad. But when Okinawa really gets it together to organize, they gather sometimes tens of thousands. So there's still a long way to go. Then another aspect, one of the organizers of the No More Battle of Okinawa organization noticed in the newspaper that in the Philippines, although they have a Marcos Jr. government, there's still a lot of anti-war people and anti-US based people, and they are saying about the same sort of thing. They have the same take on it as Okinawans. That is, we don't want to get tangled up in a war that we have nothing to do with. It's one thing to be anti-all war, but anyway, we're certainly not interested in a war where we get smashed so that the Taiwan thing can get settled. It's not our, no, we want to stay out of it, which makes perfect common sense. So we thought maybe we can get some solidarity thing going with movements in the Philippines. So I contacted Oasheko of the People's Plan, what do they call it? The People's Plan Study Group in Tokyo. She lived in the Philippines for some years and knows the situation well. I said, who can we contact? Is Weldon Bello still active? And she wrote back, he sure is. And she gave me his number, and I wrote him a note. And turns out he was, for 6 months, had a position at Kyoto University. And so he was right across the water. And we invited him to Okinawa, and he came. And by the way, do you folks know the name Walden Bello? Should I talk about him a little bit?
Yes, please.
Okay. Walden Bello is both a major Philippine scholar and a major Philippine activist. He's a very, very rare type. He has a PhD from Princeton, I believe it is. He's written 25 books, and he's been arrested dozens of times, including quite recently. He was in Kyoto to escape from his bail for his most recent arrest, because he said nasty things about the new president. But he's also the founder of an organization called Focus on the Global South. And he's written, a lot of his works are criticism of the World Bank and the terrible effect that the financial system has had on the third world and impoverishing country after country. He's been a major voice in that. At the same time, he was a lower house member for 2 terms, except that he resigned in protest. And in the last election where Marcos Jr. got elected, he was the vice presidential candidate in the opposition party, which of course lost. It takes money, lots of money to win a Philippine election. And he, in that process, talked a lot about the Marcos family money. The Marcos family has holdings in all of the US favored countries around the world. They're billionaires. And every one of their holdings is something that could be frozen by the United States government. So he says, President Marcos, in case you're trying to evaluate him, his main interest is protecting his family's billions from US seizure, which means he will do whatever the US tells him to. So he says a lot of stuff about, I'm not going to be part of this war, we shouldn't do it, but he'll do whatever he's told. And for saying that, he was again arrested, and he's presently out on bail. Anyway, he came to Okinawa and took the same tour that you folks did to the various bases, and was quite impressed by the view of Kadena from above and the view of Stemma from the tower where you get to look into it. And he said, it looks to me like Okinawa is a base and you people are just an appendage. A cruel thing to say. Fortunately, I think the interpreter had trouble interpreting the word appendage, so maybe it didn't get across. But But anyway, while he was in town, 4 days and 3 nights, we managed to put together the solidarity statement that Tarak I sent to you and that you put up, I think. It's because it was put together by the Okinawa group and Walden, it's skewed in the direction of the Philippines and Okinawa. But actually, we hope it has the potential to be the basis for a solidarity movement equally between Okinawa and South Korea and Guam and other places. One of the No More Okinawa, No More Battle of Okinawa organization members very enthusiastically said, the US has more than 100 bases. Maybe we could get 100 solidarity statements. That's a nice ambition, but certainly we could get more than just us in the Philippines. So I hope you will read it with that in mind and give us some advice as to how this could be rewritten. Should we add one more paragraph to take into account, first of all, Korea? Should we write an entirely new one? Should we try to negotiate a new one for each country, or what? But certainly, this is an opportunity, since this is not abstract someday war. This is real war in the planning stage. This is really the Russia war, the Ukraine war coming to Asia with differences. But anyway, it can become as real as that one very soon. And there, as I'm sure you know, there are high military officers saying, "Oh, it'll probably happen in the next X number of years, 2 years or 3 years." There was one that predicted it this year, but it's not happening yet. Either it could break out accidentally, as many people point out, these Chinese ships and the Taiwan and the American ships are playing chicken games, like in Rebel Without a Cause. You know, who will chicken out first? And at some point, they're also hosing each other with seawater. Could be very irritating to get the seawater. They're that close. This really could happen. It's not someday war, it's maybe tomorrow. So it's worth getting on it. And Okinawa is an appropriate place to be one of the catalysts, one of the centers, I think, for starting this kind of movement. So that's about what I wanted to communicate to you folks today. Maybe you have some suggestions or questions or corrections.
Doug, thank you so much for your presentation and information tonight. I would ask if there's any questions now, if that's okay. You want to answer questions and talk about what we can do and what Veterans for Peace can do. Talk, I think you have your hand up, but I just see an initial.
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah. So Doug, thank you very much. I think that the strong point that you make, that you bring out in that document. By the way, the document is also, the link is on the chat a number of times. I put it there. So I call it Statement from Okinawa, U.S.-Japan Security Treaty. So it's up there. And it's posted on Peace and Planet News. It's a brilliant, brilliant statement. So I think the point, Doug, that you make about being a target, I mean, the bases on Okinawa, the bases in South Korea, the base in Guam, Philippines, they're all targets. The U.S. is not not a target as long as the war is limited. I think that's a very strong point to bring out. And I think you can and should just expand that letter to include Guam and South Korea. Absolutely. Maybe a short paragraph about each, about what the U.S. bases on Guam and the U.S. bases in South Korea. So I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a terrific proposal, because I think common people can understand that. That's what that comes home to me. You're saying, I'm asking you, you're saying that people in Okinawa are kind of avoiding that, the sense of that, but they are, I believe, waking up to it. Is that, I mean, gradually anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's brilliant. And thank you for doing that. You're taking a big step forward for peace, just with that statement. So I hope everybody reads it. It's really good. And it even can apply to some countries in Europe that are involved now with the proxy war in Ukraine. They become targets also. If anything, one mistake, Ireland will become a target. Germany, France, all of that. I don't know if these people think about that. But anyway, thank you again. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first thing
Ken Mayers.
Okay, Ken. Yay.
Doug, thanks a lot for the update. Yeah, it's important that things never stand still and tend to move in the wrong direction. So thanks for the update and for what you're doing to try to correct the momentum. But I'd like to hear a little bit about your book.
Okay, I'll get to that if there's time left. I will.
Are there any other questions?
With regard to Tarak's comment, as for my next step, I was thinking Korea, and the two contacts I can easily do. Actually, Tarak, yesterday I asked you for John Kim's email number because his old one seems not to work. That's one. We need to get to do a Korean version of the document. We need Korean voices. The other would be Christine Ang of the Women's Peace Group of Korea that walk across the border blatantly and very brave. Yeah. Yes, Tarak, you got
So
something.
you got, John Kim, you got Michael Wong. Forgive me, I should have invited him personally to this. And Susan asked me to.
I
and
did.
I forgot. No,
I
Susan
did.
did. It's my fault.
No. I called him.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yes, I'm
So
your
anyway,
memory.
So thank you. Mike will be excellent. And Wright could get involved in this.
Yes.
John Kim. These are all people who could definitely get involved in it. And I don't know who we know in Guam right now.
Don't
but-
worry, we have contacts in Guam.
Yeah. So those people will be very helpful. And also, I think that we could run this statement by KJ No. Do you know who KJ No is?
No.
He's Chinese, but he's absolute, and that's another one that would be very good to run. But he's absolutely superb on every issue. I mean, I can't give him a high enough mark. The guy is like brilliant. That you'd appreciate him. So we'll contact him also, if you want.
Sure.
Yeah,
Give me-
so I think I think it'd be
Mhm.
great. And I'll give him your contact information, okay?
Good.
I'll send a document to him, give him your contact information. Same thing with Mike Wong and Christine and Ann and maybe Susan has John Kim's email. I sent you the one I had, which must be the old one if you
I
try.
do, I
Are
put it
you
in
sending-
I think-
you
I
sending-
put it in the chat.
Guys, I think Bob Kyleback has it,
There you go.
so we'll get it
It's
to
in
you.
the chat.
The one you
Okay.
gave me is different from the one I had, so
Yeah,
probably the new one.
Oh,
Right.
great. Great. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the book, I want to say something and lead into Doug's talking about the book. That book is really destined to be a classic. I mean, it is a brilliant philosophical treatise on war and legalized, quote unquote violence. It's just brilliant. It's not a quick read, but it's a valuable read. I haven't finished it, but I have started it, and whoa, I'm very impressed. Anyway, so Doug can say a little bit more if he wants to about some of the main themes. You can go through the whole book, but the main themes would be great, Doug. If you can, if you feel like it.
Yeah, this, how much time have I got?
You
How
know
about
what?
another 7, 8, 10 minutes? How's that, Doug?
Yeah, okay, because I could talk about it for 2 hours, and I won't, don't worry. Or if I
Mhm.
do, stop me. It's titled War is Hell. After I got it published and looked it up on Amazon, I found there's about 20 books published with the same title, but none has the subtitle that this one does, which is Studies in the Right of Legitimate Violence. And it's taking the concept of legitimate violence and examining it from a variety of standpoints and aspects. If you open a textbook, a college textbook on political science, if it gives a definition of the state, what is the state, they will probably give you the definition given it by the great Max Weber, the sociologist, 100 years ago. The state is the social organization that successfully claims the right of legitimate violence. Now, I've never seen a political science, a political theory book, or a political science book that asks, what in the hell is the right of legitimate violence? Where does it come from? Who says it's legitimate? Isn't it a contradiction? Isn't it an oxymoron to say legitimate violence? Isn't violence already illegitimate? What is going on with this? Or a different question, which political scientists rarely ask, but should. When we accept that definition of the state without question, what do we do to ourselves? What are we doing to ourselves when we say, yeah, okay, the state has the right of legitimate violence? It's sort of, we automatically accept something that it's better not to accept. It's unhealthy to accept. It's already, it does us a certain damage. There's something that we quit seeing that we would ordinarily see. Words are supposed to allow you to see things better. Language helps you to see reality sometimes. But legitimate violence prevents you from seeing something. oh, that's legitimate violence, so I don't have to worry about it. And it's not something just that the warriors have. We all have that damage within us. I think if you think carefully about your feelings, if you read in the newspaper that some stupid kids got some AK-47s and killed 7 or 8 people in a school somewhere, it's upsetting. We hate it. We think, what went wrong with those kids? How did they get like that? What happened to them? Are they crazy? Are they? There's got to be some special explanation that shows how they went wrong. Are they agents of the devil, or they just didn't know what they were doing, or what is it? But when we read that one of our pilots killed 7 or 8 people, or think of it this way, when we read that the Ukrainian soldier killed a couple of 100 Russians, we may think, oh my. But that's about all. It simply does not horrify us in the way that illegitimate murders do. If one of those Ukrainian soldiers visited my house, I would let him in, probably, and say, gee whiz, hard times, huh? Or something, I don't know. I wouldn't react to him with the horror that I would of one of those murderers. That's one aspect. What does this expression, which is unanalyzed and not discussed, not questioned, it's just an axiom. It's because it's a definition. Oh, that's the definition. That's what the state is. It's the state that has that right. Okay. So the kids who do that, they're okay. Here's the cover, if you can see it. It's a little bit too shiny to see.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a woodblock by an Okinawan woodblock guy. And he's using a weapon that was very popular during the Battle of Okinawa, the flamethrower. And if you look on my screen, the lower left corner, maybe it's the lower right corner, you'll see the kid who's holding the flamethrower. Can you see him? He's kneeling down.
Yep.
And he's doing his job. He looks very calm and orderly. He's Mr. Legitimate. He's the kid that we will not criticize because he's got legitimate violence. And over on the other side, what he's burning up is not a person, but a goat. That's the artist's symbolic representation of death by burning. The title of the picture is even like a goat. So it's human beings being treated this way. So it's perfect showing legitimate violence. War is hell. The other thing that needs deep examination is the platitude, and I know it's a platitude. War is hell. Everybody says it, and nobody talks about what it means. What do war and hell have in common? Most people will say, well, they're both horrible. They're both the deepest horror. The guy who reviewed this book for Counterpunch wrote in the review, what I learned from this book is that war and hell are both illegal. And I had to write back and add a little comment and say, thank you for your review, but that's not what the book is about. The book is that both war and hell are legal. That's the point. That what they have in common is that in the case of hell, hell is authorized by the highest source of good as we imagine it. God invented hell, and God sends people to hell. So God and hell are part of the same deal. According to Thomas Aquinas, God is not guilty. Only the demons are guilty. And you say, how can that be? He will say, that's the mystery. In the case of war, it's the state, the highest source of law, that says this violence is okay to do. And so law and the ultimate horror are joined together. And the more just the war is, the more the war is fought for a just cause, the more it's okay to use horrible means to win it. The great example is there's a wonderful political scientist, I think he's still alive at Harvard, named Michael Walzer, who wrote a book called Just and Unjust Wars. It's very much worth reading. It's a classic. He's a very good writer. He's very clever. And he's trying to defend the idea of just war. But he says, what about the case of the British bombing of German cities at the beginning of World War II? What the British at that time called terror bombing. And he says, he writes in that book, since Nazism is so bad, so unimaginably horrible, I say that was the right decision to bomb those cities, which killed hundreds of thousands of civilians and led to the fire bombings of Japanese cities and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That all became okay. So the war and hell are both similar in that they are authorized by the highest legal and moral authority. But the big difference, and this is crucial, is that in the case of hell, as Thomas Aquinas carefully said, avenging angels are simply too good to do that kind of work. We can't send our avenging angels into hell. And so we invented devils and demons and fiends to do this work. And they're made as evil, and they love it, they enjoy it, it's their bread and butter. They laugh and sing and do all of that stuff. But in the case of war, we ain't got no battalion of fiends. All we got is kids down the street, kids like this one who's holding on to the flamethrower, just regular people. And They're not good at doing that kind of thing. That's why we need, by the way, drill instructors. The function of drill instructors, sadistic training is to change people so that they're able to do this work of fiends. And that's why we have so many sick people after the war, going crazy, unable to forget. They thought it was fun at the time, but now all they can do is dream about it. A lot of them commit suicide. It just isn't basically in us to do that kind of work. There are a very small number of people that are cut out for it. For most people, we can just barely get ourselves to do it. Maybe it changes us forever. We never go back. But it's absolutely unnatural. We're just not built to do the work of devils and fiends. That's some of the themes in here. There are others. You can read about something that most people never heard of or don't want to hear about, which is Gandhi's alternative constitution for India. Gandhi did not support the present constitution of India, proposed a different one, and handed that proposal to the head of the Congress Party and was assassinated about an hour later, which is worth knowing. There's that story and some other interesting stories. There's a chapter on the ecstasy of war. What is it about war that some people find so thrilling that they keep going back? That's something we have to face up to. Lots of stuff in this book that you won't easily find elsewhere, I think. Okay, I think that's my 7 minutes. Maybe I'm over time. Sorry.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from anybody else? Go ahead, Tarek.
Okay, right. Doug, again, I got to thank you because one of the services that you've just done and also that you do in the book is you have denormalized this concept that is in all of us, and we don't even, like you say, you have to look for it, because the idea of state legitimate violence by the state is sort of normalized in people. Oh yeah, it's a state. Oh yeah. And you point that out very, very clearly. And that's important for us to realize and completely get it out of our system. No, this is horrible. This is wrong every single time. The state does not have the right to do this, you know? It should not be a legalized thing. So I'm really grateful to you for making that point and doing it so thoroughly and strongly.
And Tarak, you've got it in abbreviated form on your T-shirt. Stay human.
Ah, that's right. That's so true.
You got it. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you.
One other thing I want to say is the book is way too expensive, and I'm very embarrassed by that. But Roman and Littlefield they've got a discount deal, which helps a little bit. A discount that's effective to the end of this year, and it's on their flyer. And I think I've sent you that flyer. If I haven't, I'll send it again. Anybody that has that flyer and a little number on it, to order the book, and rather than from Amazon or someplace, you get, I think it's a 30% discount, which helps a little.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's a paperback version.
That's
is
the
what I
paper.
got.
book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Forget about the hardback version. That's for
Collect-
future generations. It's absolutely not to be purchased by anybody. Libraries maybe. Do you remember having that flyer?
Yeah. Yeah, I could probably find it again also,
I'll-
and maybe I'll
I'll-
share it, or if you want to send it again,
Yeah, I'll send it again.
and we'll make sure everybody gets it.
That would be great. And Doug, has the information been distributed through Veterans for Peace? Have we put out notices about the book?
I think it's in the latest Peace and Planet, not Peace and Planet News, the
The latest
VFP
e-news.
news.
Cool.
Yeah, the
Okay.
hard copy.
I
Okay.
think, yeah, but yeah, I hope that also has the discount.
I'm gonna go look.
Okay.
We'll check.
Oh, good.
Are there other questions? You've given us a lot to think about tonight. Thank you. Are there other questions for Doug? Alice, did you have your hand raised? Go ahead. You're on mute. You need to unmute.
It's not a question, it was an observation because I'm so moved by what you're writing about. And I've just been moved all over the place lately by listening to Robert Kennedy Jr.
Okay, I got it.
And Kennedy's speech, his peace speech, about that. It's almost like the government people are stepping back and saying we can't be doing these murders anymore. We have to make friends with people. And maybe it's in the zeitgeist now. Maybe like things are getting so bad that, your book is like on the cutting edge of making us stop and think all over again. I see little sprinklings of thinking that way now, that it's starting to come up. They keep going over and over again with Kennedy's 95, his speech, his 63 peace speech, where he said we can't murder each other. We got to live together. We have to figure it out, and this, people think that's why he was killed, Anyway, I look forward to looking at your book, Doug. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
Doug, it is in the Peace and Planet, not Peace and Planet, sorry. It is in the Veterans for Peace newsletter, which has been sent out to everybody, and the code is in there also.
Oh,
So
good.
it's all there. The secret code is there. So
Good.
it's great.
Good. The goddamn publisher just made a decision. If the book is not going to sell, and to get their money back, they put it on the hardback, $100, which
Pays out.
it's insulting. I didn't tell him that, but I hope they'll run out of their small number of copies and reprint it at a cheaper price sometime in the future.
Who is the publisher?
Pardon me?
Who is the publisher?
Roman and Littlefield. They mostly do a very large part of their business is one-time only publications by people looking for jobs. So somebody publishes their PhD thesis, and they can get tenure, and it doesn't matter if the book doesn't sell; it's a publication, and so they put $100 prices on those. And it just doesn't matter. The thing is getting a job. I'm not looking for a job.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? Doug, go ahead.
No, that's all.
Doug.
Hi, Susan. Doug, it's a great pleasure to see you. I must tell you that one of my proudest experiences was sitting, as it were, at the gates on Okinawa with you and Ken and Tarak and others. To hear your articulation tonight of your book makes me think that the $100 would be well spent. I'm going to try to, I'll have to admit, I'm going to try to get the soft cover as opposed to the hard cover, but
Please do.
looking forward to it. Thanks very much, Doug.
Thank you. Rachel.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much for your amazing speech and giving us update of Okinawa, what's going on in Okinawa. And I would like to take advantage of this occasion to introduce Noriko Oyama, who is, you know what, when I organized the very first Okinawa delegation, 2015, she and her husband, John Decker, were the major powerhouse to plan the whole thing. And she and her husband put us together, connected people in Okinawa, and also helped me preparing the documents and everything. So I would like to say sincere thank you to Noriko and your husband, John. And I'm glad that you joined us tonight. And let me tell you something. This year, for the first time in 3 years, because of the COVID, we are reorganizing trip to Japan, but we're going to start from Okinawa. Unfortunately, it's September in the middle of a typhoon season. So at this point, I don't know how to organize things beforehand, but Professor Sakurai was here before, he left, but he helped us organizing a symposium at the Okinawa University. It's scheduled to be held on September 17th, Sunday, right? So it will be done bilingual, in bilingual method. So I will be pitched in to English-speaking people. So Doug, if you know anybody who can join us from outside of Okinawa, like the Philippines or other Asian countries, please invite them for this symposium. One of our speakers is Pat Elder, who is very well known for his activism against the military poisons. Okay, and I know that the PFAS was found in Okinawa more than 7 years ago, and they've been trying to do the on-site investigation inside the base, but it's been rejected all this time. The last year, same thing happened in Japan. They found the PFAS in the Yokota Basin and so forth. So the PFAS is the kind of center of attention right now. And as you know, that the Okinawa TV and also as well as Ryukyu Asahi Broadcasting, they both did a special program on PFAS in Okinawa. Great job. And this will be kind of a interesting connecting point between us anti-war people and environmental protection people, because this was, I believe this will make our movement even bigger and bigger. And also there are a lot of political differences in the political things. For example, Okinawa, some people say, no, we don't want gun ho, we are completely against the US bases, we don't need them. Or some people would say, well, at a certain point we may need it. Or some people say, oh, we definitely need it. It's all different, you know, it's divided. But when it comes to environmental pollution, this is the key to connect everybody. And this particular issue has been a center of attention in the US. Biden administration allocated quite a big chunk of budget to clear the sites. But Japan, especially in Okinawa, they've been totally ignored. So this is a good opportunity to learn about PFAS, raise awareness, and to bring everybody together. And if you keep pursuing it, there's a big tall wall of SOFA, State of Forces Agreement, come to our fight. So I think it's a great idea great opportunity to spread the words, and also eventually this will be kind of a starting point to spread this movement to other Asian countries. So like you said, people in the Philippines and other part, Korea, any Asian people welcome to attend this symposium and make a big growing power to fight against the war. Thank you very much for.
Okay,
Thank you, Rachel.
Rachel, the two people I know you're in touch with, Sakurai Kunitoshi sensei and Teria
Yes.
Masafumi,
Mm.
are both very, very competent, very, very able, very dependable. You've got really, really good contacts there. And I think their environmental organizations are also rather strong. VFP Rock is down on its membership. We don't have the strength that we had in 2015 to do an organization like that. So we can't volunteer to be your organizing base this time. I hope you can get your reservations and transportation and all those things via those people you're in touch with already. But we're absolutely on your side.
Thank you.
And wish you luck, and we will participate insofar as we can.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Tarek.
Yes, I do want to say something about this delegation that the speaking tour that Rachel mentioned. It is extremely, extremely important now that this delegation go forward. Our poet laureate is on that team, Chuck Searcy, Pat Elder, and Matt
Is
Hope
Pat
from the
Elder a
state.
member of VFP now?
Pat, no, I don't think he's
He
a
is
member of VFP.
associate member.
Pat is?
Associate member.
And
So-
the
Associate
poet
member, okay.
laureate, the poet laureate's name is Jenny
Jenny
Pakanowski.
Pakanowski,
It's
right.
the first time there is a woman poet laureate of Veterans for Peace.
And I want to tell you, she is,
She's
if I say
fabulous.
brilliant, it doesn't describe it. She is beyond brilliant. If you see this woman deliver something, and she's going to wow people in Japan because she is so incredibly real. Anyway, I could get enthusiastic about it because we did see her in person and it was like, wow. Okay, but this delegation is very, very important. And it takes funds. It doesn't happen, if you got these people going over there, 4 people, there's a lot of arrangements to be made. Rachel has amazingly raised a whole bunch of money from outside, but still, we're still short. I put out a fundraising appeal a little while ago, and everyone should have gotten it. But that I have the link to donate is up there. And when you donate, it's a VFP thing. When you donate, which is very important, we got to donate to this. We got to make this happen. There's no 2 ways about it. So when you donate, make sure that you put in the comment section that comes at the end, Okinawa, Japan delegation or Japan Okinawa delegation, to indicate. So that way we know, Shelley knows at National who it goes for, because sometimes people forget. But please, listen, I donated as much as I possibly could, really, because if I put something out, I want to be behind it. I want to walk the talk, and I'm pretty broke, but I did it, and I'm glad I did it. And I just got to watch my pennies for a little while. But I'm really encouraging you all to please make a donation. It means a lot. That's all. So the link is in there. Thank you all so much.
You got it.
Thank you,
Thank-
Doug and Rachel.
And Rachel. And Rachel wanted to say something. Go ahead, Rachel.
I forgot to tell the very, very important thing before. Unlike before, where can I start? the whole, okay, how do you say, the starting point of this speaking tour was 2015 when we visited there as a delegation. Okinawa media was huge, they were after us anywhere we went. Our actions were covered by TV, newspaper, magazine, radio, all over in Okinawa. However, all that time, the mainland media was completely ignoring us. That's why I wanted to bring their attention, because this is not Okinawan issue. This is like you explained to me, this is the huge gap between having US-Japan status forces agreement under Japanese constitution. Then SOFA comes above the Article 9, and the Okinawan people fell through the cracks of this contradiction, and it's always Okinawan people who had to struggle. So we have to bring this to awareness of mainland people. That's why I wanted to do the speaking tour. Having said, from 2016 till last year, what we did was we brought our knowledge and experiences to Japan. This year, it's a bit different. This year, we go to Okinawa first, and we're gonna learn a lot from Okinawan situation, people from Okinawa. Then we'll bring that knowledge to mainland, back to the United States, because this issue is completely controlled by the politically higher positioned people of both countries, US and Japan. So we cannot anything, so our experiences told us that we cannot move them. We have to have more closer relationship on the civil society level, because SOFA is putting Okinawa, not only Okinawa, but the entire Japan like a vassal of the United States. US citizens need to understand that our country has been doing, colonizing other countries, whereas we've been always, selling the concept of freedom and the democracy. No. What we've been doing is totally different. So it is very important for us to bring that information back to the United States. So next time when Okinawan people send their delegations to Washington, D.C., I think us, US people, can go there together as citizens of this country to be together, and Okinawan people. We need data for that, okay? And what Pat Elder is trying to do is he's going to collect water samples from all different parts of Japan, starting from Okinawa, then Hiroshima, Nagasaki, everywhere, okay? For that, we also need a big funding, but anyway, we're going to make it somehow, and he's going to publish it, this whole data, okay? You cannot change that number, data. The scientific data tells everything. Thank you.
Okay,
So really important to support this, right, this Japan peace speaking tour.
I hope you and Pat make a formal request to do the testing inside the bases. You will be refused, but that should go into his report.
Thank you for the suggestion. That's great.
Yeah.
You can
And
help
one
me
other-
to do it, right?
One other suggestion for persuading, especially people in mainland Japan.
Mm.
I very much like Walden Bellow's concept, semi-sovereign state.
What do you mean by that? Please
And-
elaborate a little bit more. Thank you.
Japan's has compromised its sovereignty as a state
Mhm.
by leaving its foreign policy decisions up to a different country.
Mhm.
And for example, Gavin McCormick, who writes about these things, uses the expression client state.
Mhm.
which he's aiming at the same thing, but client state just means that the government has a bad attitude. Semi-sovereign state is a legal expression, which means that the country's sacred sovereignty is compromised by these decisions. And I think that people are more moved by insults than by abstract danger. If you say war may come, that's been true since 1945, and people are used to it. If you explain to them that they're being slighted, insulted by a different country, that may get them angrier than other. Then it's worth trying. This is a semi-sovereign state. The Liberal Democratic Party people pretend to be nationalists, patriots, beautiful Japan. And there are even right-wing sound trucks that have American flags on them. Not all, but some. And there are right-wing people who scream at the left and are all in favor of the US bases, which is just very unusual for a nationalist, extremist. It's a very contradictory position. Forget about them, they're incorrigible, but ordinary Japanese nationalists, if they really have it made clear to them that they're humiliating their country and they're being laughed at in Washington, D.C., which I believe they are. You know, when Hatoyama, the slightly liberal politician, became prime minister briefly, and he was talking about reconciliation with China, the Japan brains in Washington, D.C. had a meeting about how to think about that. And I saw it online. They had a discussion. How should we think about this Hatoyama and his desire to be free of US influence? And I think his name is Kurt Campbell. You know the name Kurt Campbell, right? One of the chief Japan brains, Japan handlers, gave the conclusion. He said, I think we should let them have it. I think we should let Japan have a degree of autonomy.
So condescending.
Allow Japan a degree of autonomy. Now, a degree is a metaphor for a system in which there's 365 degrees or 360 degrees. Okay, so that's one of those. We should allow them. How they must have giggled when he said that. That's like a joke, an inside joke among the Japan handler brains. A degree. No higher insults.
Thank you. And
Hi.
thank you, Doug. Alice will take a question, and I just want to make sure before the meeting ends that everybody remembers that the Golden Rule is coming back to New York for July 4th. And I believe Anthony may be scheduling some activities, so look out for the announcements from New York City. I think that's the major issue. I wanted to make sure that we announced tonight. And just a quick question, Bob, is there anything else that we need to mention tonight? And then Alice will take your comment.
my comment is that one other horror that's coming down the road is that NATO is putting a base in Japan.
Oh,
Office.
right.
I mean, that's really selling out your whole culture and sovereignty to be part of NATO. I mean, so anyway, that's another ugly thing that's happening here. They've just totally trampled Article 9 of their peace constitution.
Absolutely.
Again. Thank you. Just 1 second. Rachel, Bob, is there anything else for tonight's meeting?
Rachel's raising her hand.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Rachel, go ahead.
Yes, so this is the announcement. On July 8th, Sunday, from 7 p.m., we're going to do film viewing of the award-winning TV documentary, 30 minutes version, Mijidu Takara, made by Okinawa TV. I added English subtitles. So both English speakers and Japanese speakers, welcome, and please come and join us. And then we're gonna have a producer of this program. She will be answering your questions. So please join us July 8th, Sunday from 7 p.m. We're gonna spread the flyer later together with the Zoom link. Followed by on July 16th, there will be in-person film viewing in Washington, D.C. at Nippon Zammyo-Hoji Dojo. It's a Buddhist temple. This particular group of Buddhists always together with anti-nuclear movements, and they do the peace walking across the world, including Okinawa and the mainland Japan and across the United States. So they're very much pro-peace people, and they are generously offered their place for our film viewing despite the very short notice. So if you know anybody in Washington, D.C. area, please spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Are there other questions, comments? A last word, Doug. What
One
would you
last
like?
word.
Absolutely.
Susan, I love your hair.
Thank you. It took a while to get here. Thank you.
Doug, thanks a lot.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Great to
This has
see you.
been wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful educational experience for all of us.
Susan, would you share the information of next month's guest speaker?
Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you. So this month we invited Doug for his this talk about military bases in Okinawa and the local struggle. And the next month we're going to invite Professor Emeritus of Okinawa University, Mr. Kunitoshi Sakurai. He is one of the champions of PFAS issues in Japan. So he is going to share the situation in Okinawa, especially focusing on PFAS. So please spread the words, and this will be done with the simultaneous interpretation. So both Japanese speakers and English speakers are all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you have a question? And a reminder to everybody that the National Veterans for Peace Annual Convention is taking place August 25th to the 27th. We're asking for proposals for workshops, for sessions, and anybody interested in running for the national board, please submit your candidacy. The e-news went out to everyone. We need all of you to participate. Again, it's August 25th through the 27th. We're putting the program together, and thank you, Tarek, for helping us get the main speaker, who is Claire Daly and Kathy Kelly.
They're fabulous. Right.
Yes.
All right.
We're seeing Alice,
saying-
right? A poet laureate is a woman too. So join us and see the change in the culture of this organization. and I think it is changing.
Great. Thank you. It's lovely.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Good night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Right. Good night. Good luck. Right. For
Morning.
those of us who are
Good
old
morning
enough to
to
remember.
Doug.
Oh, Doug. Right. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
it's been recorded so we can share with other people.
Right. So
Thank you.
stop it now. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Can I stop this recording? So record.